This is Ken Barron with the National Association of Black and White Men Together. It's time to review the state of the LGBT people around the world. I am prompted to do this when I read that the U.S. ambassador to Zambia, Donald Foote, has said he's been threatened over his comments on the sentencing of a gay couple, causing a deepening diplomatic row. It is disturbing to hear this, especially when there are bad comments on our diplomatic corps in the current impeachment hearings. Ambassador Foote said he was horrified by the jailing of these two men, and a judge had quashed an appeal against their conviction last week, sentencing them both to 15 years in prison. You probably know that same-sex relationships are outlawed in Zambia, where British colonial-era laws on homosexuality still apply. Mr. Foote implored the Zambian government to review the case and its homosexuality laws, but has since faced a backlash for doing so. On Monday, Zambian President Edgar Lungu rebuked the ambassador, saying his government will complain to the Trump administration. The president's outrage was echoed by Zambian Foreign Minister Joseph Malangi, who said that Mr. Foote's remarks were tantamount to questioning the Zambian constitution. Mr. Foote, U.S. ambassador since December 2017, responded to the furor in a press statement on Monday. The career diplomat said he had cancelled scheduled appearances at World AIDS Day events on Tuesday because of the threats made against him on social media. He said, quote, "I was shocked at the venom and hate directed at me by my country, largely in the name of Christian values by a small minority of Zambians," Mr. Foote said. He denied accusation that his comments amounted to interference in the Zambia's judiciary and constitutional affairs. He said, "It is up to the Zambian citizens and the courts to decide if your laws correspond to your constitution, but your constitution itself provides every person the right to freedom and expression of conscience and belief," he said. "I express my belief about a law and harsh sentencings I don't agree with. I didn't interfere in internal affairs." In turn, Mr. Foote accused the President, Lunga, of interfering in judicial affairs through statements, quote, "rejecting homosexual rights," end quote. In an interview with Sky News, Mr. Lunga mounted a combative defense of Zambia's homosexual laws. "Even animals don't do it, so why should we be forced to do it? Because we want to be seen to be smart, civilized, and advanced," and so on, he said. The U.S. administration has remained shamefully silent on human rights abuses against LGBTQ people around the globe. This has been tracked by the Human Rights Coalition, HRC, who they repeatedly called on the White House and the State Department to demand U.S. leaders condemn atrocities and human rights violations being committed. They organized a visit with a survivor of the anti-LGBTQ crackdown in Chechnya to Washington to demand that the U.S. take action to stop the violence and open its doors to the victims. They have repeatedly called on the administration to welcome LGBTQ refugees and asylum seekers. They also called on the U.S. not to extend trade preferences for Tanzania until the Tanzanian government take concrete steps to improve the human rights situation for LGBTQ people and others. HRC has condemned the State Department's new, quote, Commission on Unalienable Rights, end quote, which aims to narrow the scope of human rights to the likely detriment of LGBTQ human rights. Meanwhile, a gay homeowner had previously took the Hong Kong government to court over a rule that prevented him from living with his husband has mounted a second legal challenge, this time over inheritance in case he dies without a will. Now, this person applied for judicial review over the marriage provisions in 2 ordinances on intestate and financial provisions for dependent. Upon learning the home he bought might not be passed on to his husband, he then bought a flat under the home ownership scheme in the hopes of living with his husband as a family unit after they got married in London. Quote, they intend to share their properties and support each other's life even if one of them passes away before the other, his lawyers wrote to the court. Also, a gay Russian man in a YouTube video where children asked him about his sexuality has been forced to go in hiding after authorities opened a criminal case against him. He was asked unscripted questions by 4 children aged between 6 and 13 about his experiences as a gay man. However, the video was immediately removed due to Russia's gay propaganda law, and now he has said that he's been forced to go into hiding over the furor. It was a normal conversation about my life, and they want to put me in jail, the 22-year-old told CNN. Now, how about that influence of the great movie Vogue? A culture of indigenous transgender women that has been part of southern Mexico's heritage for centuries is primed for global fashion cachet thanks to one of the world's top style magazines. For the first time in Vogue's magazine's 120 years of publishing, an indigenous mux will appear next month on the cover of the glossy Mexican and British editions. Muxies, a term probably derived from the Spanish word for woman, are indigenous transgender women who easily mix gay male and female identities. The cover photo features 37-year-old Estrella Valquez, a tall, lanky indigenous Zapotec mux wearing a traditional garment with colorful flowers and holding a pink fan in one hand. Back in the US, an Indian school board member was caught on camera telling an activist to, quote, cry me a river after confronted about unmet needs of a transgender student at a school. The board member appeared to motion, playing a violin and her arms with her arms as she said it. The protester was from the Tri-State Alliance, TSA, an activism group. They were at the meeting to speak with the school board and have been regular attendees at the meeting, according to the Illinois Eagle. 6 of the 10 activists in the group signed up to speak at the meeting, but only 1 was allowed as the others were allegedly denied by the board president. 5 more were eventually allowed to speak after protests were launched by the TSA. Then finally, the founder of St. Peter's Anglican Church in Tallahassee, Florida, has been removed from the priesthood after a report revealing his penchant for sexually harassing men at his church. Father Eric Dudley, who has a history of pushing anti-LGBTQ ideology, resigned from his position as dean of the cathedral back in 2018. But a recent investigation by the Godly Response to Abuse found that he engaged in sexual misconduct against several young men under his authority. The new revelations resulted in his removal as a priest of the Anglican Church in North America. According to a report, soon after Dudley founded his church, 4 individuals came forward with allegations of misconduct, which resulted in his resignation. Well, this roundup of the world LGBT news gives us pause to think about the gains we have made and the challenges our community faces. The NABWMT will be there to educate and inform. Thank you for listening. This is Ken Barron with the NABWMT. We're on Facebook, and our website is nabwmt.org. We thank you, and we'll be talking to you soon.